all the games I used to play in my younger, wilder days. The game of clubs and tees, it never crossed my mind. But after some discussion with my closest, dearest friends, I decided that I'd give it one good try. That was my first big mistake.
Welcome into another episode of the Turn Fantasy Golf Podcast. My name is Andrew Putters. I'm here with my trusty and loyal partner, Joe Nicely. And as always, this podcast is brought to you by Rotoballer.com. They're our partner when our daily fantasy needs. You go there for all your research. When signing up, hit the promo code NICE to get you a little discount for them. My man Joe is the senior editor of the golf department over there. Joe, how you doing, buddy?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Nice to talk to you. Got to give you a little hat tip. You took me out in our football league this week. It looks like we're doing this on Monday night, and I'm done. So, congrats, buddy.
Well, like I said before we start recording, it's week 3. I've had one touchdown so far, and this week all my guys scored a touchdown. So just happened to be you.
Of course, when you're playing me, it's never going to fail.
Hey, you're the number 1 seed. We got to take down the champ, man. You got to take down the champ. So
yeah, I've got some injuries. It's going to be a rough year. It looks like.
I hear you on the injury front for sure. Well, I've had a busy week, as the Twitterverse knows. I'm now the dad of 4 little girls. Baby Arbor Jane was born Tuesday, 22nd at 6:16 p.m. 9 pounds 4 ounces, 21 inches long. It was easy. I wouldn't say it was easy. It was a calm and peaceful. Everybody was healthy delivery. However, with the COVID, it was really weird. Nobody can visit you. It's like you're in a square room for 24 hours, and normally you stay there for a couple of days, but we got out of there after 24 hours. It was really weird.
Yeah.
Nobody being on a visit. So.
Right. Well, I'm glad everything went well. Congratulations to you and your wife on that, and really happy for you, man. Glad we got another healthy little pour in the world.
That's right. Hey, but the grind don't stop there. We're back at it.
We're rolling, baby. We're rolling.
Didn't miss an episode last week. Not gonna miss it this week. I'm gonna just fire off with some fireworks right out of the gate, Joe.
Do it. Let's go.
Did you happen to see the headlines on Tony Finau?
I did. I caught it. Being sued for $16 million. I think's what you're referring to.
I think it's actually an undisclosed amount. He went on record saying I'm owed at least $16 million. Melonia Hollow, family friend, apparently been supporting the family since the early 90s, paying their mortgage, paying their bills, allegedly all this, by the way.
Right.
It racked up to $592,000 over his and his brother. I guess he saw something in the two boys. I mean, anybody's going to put up $600,000. Now, apparently to be fair, he owns Icon Sports Company. I don't know if that's a gear, if that's a distributor. I don't know if it's a promotion group or a management group. I don't know, but we might be getting a little fishy on the amateur status if we're supporting the family in middle school, right?
Finau and his brother, man, they were kind of well-known players in their teens. I know they both turned pro very early, age-wise. I don't think either one went to college to play. I know they were playing pretty big money games out in Vegas when they were really young, teenagers. And you and I know, you more than me, you've kind of been around big-time amateur golf, growing up being a top-notch amateur, and we know that there are a lot of these deals made, man, around the country. It's nothing new. These guys have sponsors. It's very expensive to try to be a professional golfer. No money coming in a lot of times, grinding mini tours, trying to Monday qualify for events, gets really expensive. And there's a lot of, businessmen, friends, fellow club members in a lot of cases that will oftentimes help these guys out. And we don't know a lot of the deals that are made, but usually a lot of times it's with strings. These guys expect to get their investment repaid at some point. Now, we don't know what type of deal Tony Finau had with this guy. We don't really know any details as far as what kind of arrangement was made, but looks like this guy was helping Tony and his brother trying to get started, and he feels like he's due a percentage of Tony's winning. So we'll see, man. By all accounts, Tony Finau's an absolutely unbelievably good dude. That's everything I've ever seen, any interactions, anything I've ever heard, interviews, everything, man. The guy seems top notch, really quality guy. So hopefully everything works out, man. Just an unfortunate situation.
Yeah, I'm thinking back in the early 90s, this really wasn't a thing yet. It more came around the early 2000s, late 90s, when you started seeing major sponsorship or sponsorship teams putting together maybe some kind of deal to put a guy on the road for a year to play golf. So, obviously the handshake stuff has always went on, since as long as amateur sports has been around. But I got to think, just from the wordage in the article I read, it was more of a, hey, you get 20% of what I make when I make it one day kind of thing.
Right.
He's claiming he just wants the 592,000 plus interest, which equals 16 million because Finau's only
interest.
Yeah, Finau's only made he's only made 20 million playing. I'm sure he's made several more millions in endorsements and stuff. But like you said, I remember that there's a big two-man tournament in Vegas every year. And there's guys you've never even heard about are playing in this thing, more notables that we know, Scott Piercy, little bitty guy was a caddy out there, Chris, I can't think of his name. He was the Ryder Cup guy, played for a few years, really good player, about 5'6", Chris something, I can't think of his name. But anyway, he was a caddy in Vegas for years. And Finau, I remember Finau turned pro at 17, so he was out there at 16 years old playing in this tournament. Like I said, there's people playing this tournament you've never even seen or heard about. It's a big deal, big deal. I'm not sure if it still goes on anymore, but it's a big tournament. So, yeah, it sounds like this is a handshake agreement, probably between a guy trying to see the dollar signs down the road, and I don't know. Who knows how it's going to pan out. I don't sound like there's, from the words in the article, there was anything on paper, so who knows. So, last week, Corrales Punta Cana Championship. Basically, I'm not going to say it turned out the way we thought it would, but around the score we kind of thought it would. Hudson Swafford, 18 under, cruises with a 69 on the final round. Never really was close. Maybe on the back nine there for a minute, but they were going to have to go low to catch up to him. And bigger news, or not bigger news, but what we did talk about, Will Zalatoris, 65 on Sunday, second event on the PGA Tour, second top 10. We know this is a weak field, but this guy's here to stay, obviously.
Yeah, man. We talked about him a lot, spent a lot of time on him. He was at the top of the board. Kind of came out a little sluggish, but ended up playing great, getting that top 10. Got him in the field this week with that performance last week. So we'll get to see him again this week for the Sanderson, thanks to that.
Yeah, Sam Burns, 78 on Saturday. I didn't get to watch it at all Saturday. Was it more of playing the leader role, or what'd you see?
Man, I'm not sure. I was looking at that. I was gonna note it. He went 69, 67, 78, 66. So Burns is right there. Obviously, we spent a lot of time talking about him last week. I was heavily invested in him, and it's just one of those days, man. He forgot how to play golf for one round. I'm not sure what happened. Made a nice charge there Friday to put himself in position, and then just exploded on Saturday. I'm really not sure what happened. And then comes back Sunday with the 66, which I think was one of the lower rounds of the day. So weird tournament for Burns. We'll talk about him a little bit more. He's in this week's field. He's a guy we really liked. Mackenzie Hughes was a player we liked, had a really strong finish. Patrick Rogers was right there with the T11. Jinjun Zhang, a guy we talked about and brought up, also had a good finish. So we got a lot of things right. Just kind of a recurring theme for me personally here lately. Been getting a lot of things right and a couple of key things wrong. And it seems like it's really slowing my lineups down, man. Just 5 out of 6s seems like I'm missing on a key piece each week. but we keep getting a ton of things right, and eventually we'll put it all together, get a big score, and hope it's helping you guys out. Maybe with some lineup construction. Some of these guys we're tossing out are playing really well over the last few weeks. So we definitely appreciate you tuning in, and we'll try to get you some more good plays this week for the Sanderson.
Yeah. So one thing that's been bogging our lineups down most of the summer is a guy named Will Gordon. He has officially made the list. He is officially on the list. I tweeted out the list for the 2020-2021 season. It's already got 2 names on it. Like I said, for the opening tournament, for the Safeway, new year, new list. By gosh, there's already names on it.
That's right. That's right. And Will Gordon definitely deserves it. With Tennessee kid from Vandy, we've pumped him, we've talked him up, we've had faith in him, and he's just not done it for us. So he's on there for me too, man. I think I'm laying off for a while. I think last week was my last stand on him for a while. But from looking at ownership percentages, a lot of people took that stand, which is kind of surprising that he was that popular. I played in some tournaments, he was like 40% owned. So he definitely let a lot of people down, let us down. So yeah, Gordon, well-deserved spot on the list.
Well, I mean, you look at him, watch him play. 10 straight holes. He hits it 330 yards off the green. He's very accurate with his irons. He's a good putter, and at times a great putter. And then he'll double bogey a par 5 from 205 out, laying 1. I mean, you just what? Or 4-putt. I think he 4-putted the first hole there on the first day or the first day. Now I don't remember, but he 4-putted like the first hole or the 10th hole. Had about a 30-footer on the fringe, 4-putt. Appreciate you. But I mean, the guy bombs it, man. That's what it is. He bombs it, and he'll play 10 or 12 holes just like this guy's the top 50 in the world. Easy. How's he not already?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it's just it's a trademark of youth, right? Just inconsistency, not being able to put it all together, not being able to put holes together, playing really well in stretches, really making mistakes that are avoidable. So, yeah, man, I think maybe he's just going to need a little time to mature. Still think he can be a good player long term, but just doesn't appear to be there yet. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see him, during this fall swing maybe pop up in the tournament for a strong finish. But I think as far as DFS goes, you look for that type of high upside, but he's just proven to be way too inconsistent right now to put a lot of faith and invest a lot of money in him.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know his personal situation or anything like that, but I know I think he's playing on sponsor exemptions right now because the talent level is so high, so he might be feeling a little bit of that. I don't know, but definitely got some talent. Another disappointing week for a man by the name of Charles Howell III. I was really high on him. Thought, this is an ideal tournament where he finishes 15th, 10th, 8th, 3rd. Like you said, he's made hundreds, he's made millions of dollars doing this, and he's right there. And I think he shot like 73 or 4 on Friday and missed the cut. So not saying he's made the list yet, but he's peeking in. There ain't no doubt.
He's working on it.
That's right. So this week headed the Sanderson Farms Championship, and this week's tournament for the Turn Fantasy Golf Pod is brought to you by Thrive Fantasy. Come prop up with Thrive Fantasy this season. Thrive Fantasy is a daily fantasy sports app for player props. They've eliminated all the need to do countless hours of research because they only ask you about the top 10 athletes in the respective sport. So for PGA, choose 5 out of the 10 player prop options and build a lineup. Each prop has a fantasy point total associated with the over and under based on the likelihood to occur. The more points a selection is worth, the riskier it is. Rack up the most points and win a share of the prize. They have new contests each day for golf, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, etc. So don't sweat the golfers missing the weekend and ruining it for you. Thrive has awarded over $1.4 million in prizes since launching in 2018 and has a $50,000 guarantee prize every week for the NFL. Use the promo code The Turn when you sign up today, and you'll receive an instant up to 100% up to $50 on your deposit. Download the Thrive Fantasy on your App Store or Play Store or by visiting their website, thrivefantasy.com. Sign up and hashtag prop up today. So, Thrive Fantasy, just like we said last week, fellas, ladies and gentlemen, it's a new way to play fantasy where you go out and find a bunch of props that you like, put them in a lineup. They each have a point value. It's pretty cool, pretty interesting. Like I said, there's new events every day. So that way, if you do miss the cut, pop in there, check out Thrive, man. 100% match on your deposit up to $50. Pretty good deal. So this week, Sanderson Farms Championship. This is an interesting tournament, Joe. So it's played at the Country Club of Jackson, Mississippi, par 72, 74, a little over 7,400 yards. It's been playing since 1968. So this tournament's been around forever. Had a ton of names, a ton of different venues, but it's majority always played as an alternate event, which means it's played along with the Ryder Cup, the British Open, the Masters, US Open, weeks like that. There's always been an alternate event for other players that gain status. It's been one of those events up until it's been an alternate event every year since it started in 1968 until 2009 when they canceled the event. And then it was moved to the fall, I think 14 maybe. Yeah, 2014, 2013, something like that. Played several years at several different golf courses. And then it was named to a regular event whenever the new schedule came out in 2019. Part of the fall swing. Very interesting. Golf course has been around forever, 100 years, I think. It's actually been moved once. Saw that from one part of town to the other. Membership got together and moved it. It was redesigned in 2008. It's a 27-hole golf course, 18 of it obviously for this. All in all, great old style Donald Ross light golf course. Not much about Country Club of Jackson on the internet. They keep it hush hush down there, obviously. So very interesting to see. It's long, but there's a lot of par fives, so birdies are going to be out there. We're going to see a 15 to 20 under probably winner, and the field's pretty good this week. You know, do you got anything on the golf course in particular other than what I mentioned?
Not a lot, man. I think you covered it pretty well. Kind of a standard classical, like you said, almost Donald Ross type layout. A lot of tree line fairways. 4 par 4s make up a big chunk of the yardage. Bermuda greens, which is always kind of something to note. Guys from the South, guys that spend a lot of time in Florida, seem to do a little bit better on Bermuda because they're more familiar with it. It's also a little grainier, like around the greens, chipping and stuff. So it's something to kind of keep in mind. Something I'll be looking a little bit at this week's Bermuda putting splits. But yeah, other than that, man, not a whole lot to nothing really exceptional about the layout as far as what we're looking for. We've seen bombers do well here. Cameron Champ won here a couple of years ago. But we've also seen kind of short, precise hitters win here. Guys like Ryan Armour have won here. So we're looking at the end of the day for guys that can make birdies, guys that hit fairways or drive it long, one or the other, guys that can score on par fives. Like you said, a lot of birdies going to be needed. Probably going to be somewhere around 20 under. Looking at the weather down in Mississippi, seems like it's been pretty damp. So I think the course will probably play a little softer, which will make it probably play a little bit longer. So that's maybe something to look at. But other than that, man, nothing really exceptional about the golf course other than there's going to be a lot of birdies. And like you said, it's a fairly strong field for a swing season event. Definitely much stronger than we saw last week.
Well, okay, man. Notable news, Oosthaven's withdrawn from the event. So up there at the top of the salary on DraftKings, he's out. Course history is really weird because I said a lot of these guys have played it, but it's been sporadically, you know, because if they've gotten the major that it's up against, you just don't know. There's not been a lot of consistent play from this field on this course, I guess. Is that the right thing to say? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair. There's a lot of guys. It's not like a lot of events we see on tour where the same guys play the same event every single year. You'll see a lot of guys that have played it like 2 or 3 years out of the last 5 years, maybe year on, year off, year on, year off, whatever. So, yeah, I think that's definitely fair to say when looking at course history.
Yeah, so normally I say this part for the last bit of the show, but I'm going to come out of the gates firing hot.
Let's go. Do it, baby.
If you do not put Henrik Stenson in your lineup, you're not doing something right. He's finally got a few rounds under him. He played decent last week. He's obviously a great chipper and putter of the ball. Hits it far enough. He plays well on any type of green surface. And he's in that price point where he's really got a lot of value. So he's my pick this week out of the gate. I'm throwing it out early. So, I mean, there's going to be a lot more guys we're going to talk about. But I think he finished maybe 20th last week. I was just waiting to see him a little bit consistency. And like I said, he's got some rounds under his belt over the last month.
He's your guy. You had him at the U.S. Open. You just been waiting on a little sign, and you saw enough last week, right?
Saw enough last week. Didn't play great. I mean, Henrik Stenson in this field at, what is he, 8,900? Yeah, I mean, come on. Give me a break. So just go ahead and hurt my feelings. What do you think about that, John?
Hey, man, I'm always down for ball strikers. Stenson is a guy that I rostered a lot, it seems like, a couple years ago. He had a really strong stretch there of just unbelievably iron play, and I rostered him a lot. Kind of moved away from him a little bit over the past year because, like you said, man, he's just not been teeing it up much, especially since the COVID thing. Very few appearances, but I mean, you have to love his ball striking. He's a fairway finder, a great iron player, and can get hot. Certainly has a great pedigree when compared to a lot of this field. Not normally the caliber of player that we'll see teeing it up in the Sanderson. But we've got a lot of guys this week. I mean, you look at the top of the board, man. There's a handful of really impressive players in this field, starting with Scotty Scheffler, who unfortunately missed the U.S. Open, but is certainly a pretty neat headliner for a swing season event. What do you think about up at the top? I know it's always a little hit and miss with you spinning up there, but any of these guys you like up there? I'm
not usually a guy that likes to roster that high on a price. But, I mean, Scotty Scheffler, 23 events last year, 7 top 10s. I mean, come on. That's pretty strong, and he really, really came on there at the end. He had a little bit of a valley there in the middle of the summer, but really came on strong there at the end. I mean, the only thing
you caught fire there at the end of the kind of the end of the season. Last season, this summer, but he ran off 6 straight top 25s, and 3 of his last 4 he had top 5s, including at the PGA Championship and the Tour Championship. So I mean, he was on fire. Unfortunately, wasn't able to play in the U.S. Open because of being exposed to COVID. I don't think he actually had it. I think he was just maybe exposed to someone that did. So it's kind of a shame that he didn't get to tee it up in the U.S. Open. So now our only concern with him is that he's not played in a little bit. That's my only concern with Scheffler. Love the way he fits this course, love his game, love his form. But like you said, we've also seen some valleys from him, some inconsistencies. So, it's not a lock to spend up for him, but he certainly has tournament winning upside up there.
Yeah, if I'm looking at the top, I mean, obviously Scheffler, Zalatoris are going to be your 2 kings for me.
I think you can throw Sungjae in there, man. I'm coming back around. I was looking at Sungjae today. We were off him for a long time. He had a really rough stretch after the restart. Lost strokes with his irons in 6 straight starts. But he's now gained strokes on approach in his last 2, at the Tour Championship and at the U.S. Open. Gained over 4 strokes on approach, I believe, at the Tour Championship and over 5 at the U.S. Open. So his irons are heading in the right direction. Had a very strong finish in this tournament last year, and he loves Bermuda greens. So I think there's a lot of things trending in Sungjae's direction. I agree with you on Scheffler and Zalatoris, but definitely want to throw Sungjae in there too.
Yeah, and that's what I was getting at is I like those I do like those three, but I'm still putting Scheffler and Zalatoris above him. Vignane, no thank you. But Sebastian Munoz, defending champ, man, he's had a rock solid year last year. But I mean, Sam Burns is right there. He's cheaper than all those guys. How are you not playing him over? And I would rather play like a him Adam Long combination as to have to pick up in the mid tens and drop down to the mid eights for my second player. I guess is where I'm going with the strategy.
Right. Yeah, and that's a sound strategy, man. I love Burns again. Kind of disappointed us with that third round last week, which we've already touched on, but I mean, he fits this course really well. He's from Louisiana, just a few hours away. I think he's played this golf course a lot. Great Bermuda putter. We were talking about Sungjae. Burns is as well. This is what he grew up playing on. So I think you can definitely go back to him here, maybe catch him in a bounce back spot. Right below him, Doc Redman, a guy we've talked about a lot on this show over the summer. He's played some great golf lately. Had a T3 at the Wyndham and a T3 at the Safeway. And, man, you talk about fire. He shot 62 in the final round of the Safeway. That's the last time he's played. And he was coming for your boy Sink. He just ran out of holes. So I definitely like what Doc brings to the table. I think he's got great upside, but you are kind of embracing a little bit of volatility because he does miss cuts occasionally. And then, like you said, Adam Long, really interesting play. Played really well in the Dominican last week. We know he's streaky, and he seems to be in a good groove right now. So it's tempting to ride that hot hand with him. Who are you liking as we kind of move on down?
I mean, Ches Reavie is always going to be a decent play. He's going to be. I mean, he's just a grinder. He's never going to quit, no matter if he's in last place. After that, Stinson, Luke Liss, he puts Bermuda greens the least worst.
It's his least worst surface.
Yeah.
Wasn't Liss like 8,000 last week? Or no, I guess he's about 8,700. I just find it weird that he's higher. He's priced higher this week than he was last week, I believe.
He's weird, man. Like,
yeah, in that horrible field, and this is a much better field, and he's priced higher.
Well, you'll see him in like some field that, like, in the spring he'll be 6,400. It's really weird, Obviously, those fields are stronger, but
yeah, there's some weird pricing this week. I mean, you look at a guy like. I always call him a sicko play every time I talk about him, but you look at a guy like Siwoo, and he's there at 8,400 this week, and he was at the top of the board at the Safeway, which we thought was crazy, but with that field, they had to put somebody up there. But he's had a good summer. His irons have kind of declined in his last couple starts, but he's a great Bermuda grass putter, and has had some form, even though it's kind of iffy all of a sudden, it seems like. But it feels like do you feel like that's cheap in this field for Siwoo? I mean, considering the upside he brings to the table, I just think it's kind of weird that he was so expensive at the Safeway, and now he's fairly affordable at 84.
I'm just not on board with Siwoo most
Okay.
now.
A lot of people aren't. I get it.
McCarthy at that price, he's cheaper and probably better. Or Rogers, Ortiz two back-to-back top fives in this event. I'm probably leaning there.
Yeah, great course history for Ortiz. Just really volatile. One of those guys, I call him a spike player. He'll miss a bunch of cuts, and all of a sudden he'll spike a top five kind of out of nowhere. Done that here the last couple of years. So good heads up there on Carlos Ortiz. And guy we talked about a lot last week, and we kind of seem to work our way to a lot, is Patrick Rogers, who scored a T11 for us last week in the Dominican. And he's played well here, made 3 straight cuts at this course. We know he does well on par fives. We know he's a great putter. So I'm willing to go right back to Rogers there. And that's kind of a nice little area there with Rogers. Like you said, Denny McCarthy's also played well here. Didn't do great for us last week, but played well enough, made the cut. He's got good course history here. And another guy that I've been on who's been playing rock solid is Cameron Davis, the Australian. I really like him. I like his upside, I like his ability to make birdies, ability to attack par fives. So that feels like a nice little kind of a nice little area right there from like Denny McCarthy up to whether you like Sealer or not. Carlos Ortiz right in there in that area.
Yeah, yeah, it is. I mean, the mid nines, the mid eights is if you pick out 2 or 3 in the top 10, that's where you're gonna make your money this week. It's just picking them out of the hat. After that, though, the high sevens. I mean, it gets really, really thin, really quick. There's not a lot of things to love about it. You got obviously Swafford just won last week at 7,300. Rowinski at 7,300. Piercy played pretty good last week, 7,200. Then, I mean, hate to say this, but my next guy I'm not even looking at. And after I get below Sepp Straka, which I don't necessarily love because he's kind of been trending downward, I think, but is a guy that you really dislike to play, dislike to watch, but he plays Bermuda greens really well. He bombs the ball. He plays very slow. JB Holmes, 7,000. JB Holmes doesn't play a lot.
You're flying solo on that one, big guy.
he's just, he hasn't played a lot. He's only played 2 tournaments since the COVID, and a lot of it's probably health. He's got some health issues.
I don't know, man. It seems like his schedule is always weird to me. Like, he doesn't play a lot. Because he'll pop up and win a tournament every few years, and he can play pretty much any week that he wants. He can get in pretty much any tournament that he wants. He won at Riviera a couple of years ago, but he just elects not to play a lot of these tournaments. It seems like his schedule's always just been really weird. So it's kind of tough to wrap your head around. Seems like he likes playing the West Coast swing and playing at different certain times a year. But yeah, man, I get it. I mean, like I said, he'll pop up and another one of those spot plays. He'll pop up and just kind of out of nowhere seemingly start, throwing up a couple top fives or even a win. We've seen a couple times. So, I mean, I feel you on JB Holmes. He's just not a guy that I'm ever going to have much exposure to, if any. But to echo what you're saying, man, it's really weak through those mid sevens. Definitely not my favorite range on the board this week. Not a lot to love there. There's not a lot of guys with good floors that we feel like, hey, this guy can definitely get us a made cut this week. I looked at Rafa Cabrera Bello there at 76. He feels cheap, but looking at his stats, he's just been living on the putter, which always scares me. He jumped out to me as feeling underpriced in this field, and I'm sure he'll probably get some ownership. But when he changed his entire bag the week of the U.S. Open, we saw him play pretty well at Winged Foot, but he changed irons, drivers, everything the week of the U.S. Open because he'd been playing so bad. And he still didn't really hit the ball well there. Just scrambled and putted very, very well, and that's kind of what he's been doing on any strong finishes. So, I mean, I don't blame you if that's a guy you look to because it is so thin in there. But, yeah, like you said, man, I'm almost going down to the low sevens. I saw Cameron Percy there, has really good course history and has been playing well, logged a couple solid finishes at the Safeway and Corrales. So he's a guy you can look at. But after that, man, I'm kind of going down into the sixes. There's almost some guys down there that I prefer to the sevens. Am I crazy, or are you seeing anybody down the sixes you like?
No, I mean, you get in the sixes. Okay, this guy that I know that you love to play right off the bat, Norlander. But he's kind of been backpedaling since we ran together several good weeks. He's been backpedaling since then. Shank, who seems to have a great first round in every tournament, and that's what he finishes for the week.
Yeah, Shank was on one of the guys on my 6K list. He feels underpriced to me. He was 80 mid eights last week, right? Maybe 87 or something. Which I know this feels stronger, but I mean that's a roughly a $2,000 price decrease So he does feel underpriced to me. He's played well here. Had a T7 in this tournament 2 years ago, and he's been playing pretty darn good golf. I mean, not any amazing finishes as of late, but he's been playing solid. I think he's made 7 straight cuts. So he's a guy that in this field definitely sticks out to me as underpriced, and is a guy I'll definitely be throwing in some GPPs and some tournaments. You know, if you want to get those guys up at the top, like a Scheffler, or like you said, you want to go with a couple 9K guys, Burns and someone else up there. He's definitely a guy you can turn to, and there's a couple of those guys down there this week. I was looking at Shank and a guy I got on late in the week last week, but who I'm comfortable going back to. He's kind of a ride the hot hand type of play, and it feels like he's trending in the right direction. Is JJ Spawn. Had a couple of solid finishes here. I think like a T35 and a T34 the last 2 times he's played this tournament. Had a top 10 at the Safeway. Was in the mix a little bit last week and then fell off over the weekend, but I think he's underpriced in this field too. So he and Shank down there are 2 guys I'm certainly interested in. Anybody else stick out to you down there?
I mean, Scott Piercy hits it far enough, on a course like this. Putts Bermuda Green's pretty good, but he hasn't showed nothing in quite some time, so he's kind of tough. Scott Harrington, man, ball striking wise is about as good as anybody, really. Last year was his first year on tour, but he has trouble putting 4 rounds together, it seems like. Lahore, not on him. Mitchell's too inconsistent. I mean, you want to say at this price with this field, somebody like Stallings, who puts Bermuda Greens pretty good, even though he didn't grow up on them. But he's been wildly inconsistent, missed 2 straight cuts since the top 5 finish at the Barracuda. So can't really go there either. So you're going to be gambling down here in the 6s, but a gamble could really pay off. Kelly Craft hits the ball great, doesn't seem to play well. What are you thinking? I mean, Wesley Bryan, obviously, right?
That was another one. I'm glad you brought him up. Anybody who watches the show a lot knows that we've kind of went to him at discounts over the summer, and he's played well for us. Missed the cut on the number at the Safeway. That was his last start. But yeah, man, be able to grab him at this price in this field, I feel like is a great value option. So I'll definitely have some Wesley Bryan, another guy that, like I said, he's not sexy, but Robert Oppenheim is a guy I talked about last week. He was in the mid-7s in that field and made the cut. He's made 3 cuts in a row, I believe. Just a solid veteran guy that you feel like can probably grind out a made cut for you down there in the mid-6 price range. So I mean, yeah, there's a handful of guys down here that I won't have any fear about rostering, especially in lineups. I want to get Sung Jae in there. Lineups I want to get Scheffler in there, Sam Burns, a couple of guys in the 9s. I mean, I think you can definitely go that route this week. Shaping up early to me to look like you can go stars and scrubs, dip down the 6s for 2-3 guys, go all the way up to the top of the board for the guys you like, or you can go a little more balanced there in that low 8K range like we talked about with an Ortiz or Rogers, Denny McCarthy, guys that you might like in there. That's kind of how the week's shaping up for me. Not crazy about the 7K range, which is always unfortunate. It's been that way here for me lately, man. That usually the 7s are a real sweet spot for me, and it seems like the last several tournaments, I specifically the U.S. Open, I love Louis in that range, but the last several weeks, man, there's just not been a lot of guys jumping out for me in the mid-7s, which kind of almost forces me to go stars and scrubs, even though that's not my preferred strategy. A lot of times, I find myself going there a lot here lately, and might go there again this week.
Yeah, I mean, Zalatoris, Redmond, Burns, that's to me, where you should start your lineups. I mean, Scheffler and Sunjao, okay, I can understand that, but that's the 3 I'm going with, and then I'm probably scrubbing it up after that. I mean, obviously, like I said, I love Stinson, But if you're going for the gusto, I would start out with those three: Redmond, Zalatoris, Burns. Go from there.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that a lot, man. I like all those guys. I think Zalatoris is a really good player. Like I said, he started out kind of sluggish last week, but really came on, performed well like we thought he would, and like him again this week. And I think I'm a little bigger on Sungjae than you are, but just looking at his ball striking numbers, it feels like he's coming back. And I really like the fact that he's getting back on Bermuda. He won the Honda earlier this year on Bermuda. His putting splits are much, much better. So I think I'm a little higher on Sungjae than you, but I'll have a lot of exposure to him. And like you said, that upper 9K range is also tempting.
Absolutely. So, in wrapping up, Joe, what we got going on at Rotoballer this week? We got a few more weeks to get in on the special price, and then after that, what we got going on?
Yeah, man, you do. You can sign up for our PGA Premium. Use promo code NICE, NICE, over at Rotoballer. We've got an amazing research station over there. I use it every single week. It's got course history, ownership percentage, strokes gained numbers, anything you need, all right there in one kind of neat spot. Josh Bennett does a course breakdown over there every week. That's amazing. If you're new to PGA DFS, you can really dig into these courses and kind of visualize what's going on. And Spencer is killing it, man. His Vegas report is a premium article, and he nailed Bryson DeChambeau at the U.S. Open a couple weeks ago. So Spencer is one of the best in the business at picking winners. So we definitely want to urge you to sign up for that. But if you don't, we also got free content you can check out every week. So hit up Rotoballer.
That's right. And cool thing, on Wednesday nights, you can get in there in the chat and talk to Joe or some of the other riders on staff and talk to them, get their perspective on who she maybe in her lineup, what do you think about this guy or that guy? So check that out as well. You've listened to an episode of the Turn Fantasy Golf Podcast. If you like what you hear, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, share it with your friends, wherever it is you're watching. We appreciate it. It helps us get our show out there. So in saying that, my name's Andrew Putters. This is my partner, Joe Nicely, and we are signing off. See y'all later.
It's gonna drive